Welcome back to Family Health Today. I'm Deborah Singer. It's no surprise shopping for locally grown foods is outrageously popular these days. In fact, a national survey finds locally grown food to be the hottest industry trend for 2009. With so many families choosing healthier foods, parents are also starting their little ones on the freshest foods out there. They're turning to locally grown, pesticide-free baby food. Local homemade baby food like Boston Mountain Baby. We're joined today by the founder and owner of Boston Mountain Baby, Angie Coleman. Angie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
First of all, tell me a little bit, how did Boston Mountain Baby begin?
Well, it started when my oldest son, who's now 3.5, he was 6 months old, and it was time for him to start solid foods. So I started pushing my grocery cart around the store, and I was looking at my options, and the options were, at the time it was all jarred, and the organic was insanely expensive, didn't fit in our budget, and the traditional brands and versions, they just didn't fit my standards. The green beans were just a little bit darker than a normal green bean would be, and the sweet potatoes were brown, and it just didn't look very appetizing. Right. So that's when I started doing my own research, buying my own produce, pureeing my own baby food, and giving it to him. And that's when I started thinking, maybe I could turn this into a business. I mean, and then it wasn't until my second child was born, a couple years later, that it really blossomed, and I started Boston Mountain Baby.
Tell me about the process that goes into making Boston Mountain Baby, just kind of the steps that you go through when, choosing the food and how you create it.
Well, the process is extremely simple. I have my own garden that I first choose my produce from, and then I head straight to the farmer's market where I have relationships with the farmers that I choose my food from, and the ones that I purchase from have all pledged to be pesticide-free and herbicide-free. And so I buy from the farmer's market, and then I take my produce to the commercial kitchen that I rent, and I go straight there and prep the food, steam the food, puree it, and then freeze it, and then the next day I come back and I package it. So it's a really simple process.
It sounds easy.
It is.
That's great and very healthy.
Yeah.
So, talking about locally grown food, what constitutes locally grown food, especially when we're looking at baby food, and what are the advantages of eating locally grown?
Well, for us, locally grown can mean a lot of different things to different people, but for us, since we are using produce from my garden and also from the farmer's market, it basically means that we're using food. The majority of my food comes within a 50-mile radius of Fayetteville, Arkansas. So it's all really pretty close. And the advantages, there's several advantages. There's the environmental impact, to where the food I'm using isn't coming from California, it's not being shipped from all over the country, and then it's also not being shipped to different places in the country. It's being grown here, and it's being sold here and consumed here. The other advantages, the nutritional aspects, is that I mentioned that I pick my produce, or then I get it from the farmer's market, and it's being picked all the way to the freezer within just a few days. So that really retains the nutrients, and because there's been lots of research done to where the longer the fresh food stays uncooked, the more nutrients are lost. So the shorter time that you can get that down to, the more nutrients that are going to be in the baby food. Right.
Now, obviously, you're saying that you're purchasing a lot of this food during the summertime months, because that's when our gardens are growing, we're having great food, and the farmer's market is a great place to pick up those vegetables and fruits and things like that. How are you able to sell your products year-round, since most of your produce is picked up in the summertime?
Well, there are two ways. Right now, I'm doing a lot of vacuum sealing. Once it's frozen, I'm vacuum sealing the baby food, and that almost doubles the freezer life of the baby food. So that'll get me through the winter months. And also, once it's frozen, you have a good 4 to 6 months. Wow. So even though the shelf life is not 2 years like a normal jarred baby food, but you can get several months out of it, and that should get me to the spring.
Now, your products are sold majority-wise in the freezer department, right?
Correct.
What made you choose to sell them in the freezer versus the jar, the jars we see in the baby aisles?
Well, as I just mentioned, if you think about a jar of baby food, or even a can of green beans or a can of carrots, those vegetables have to be cooked at an enormous temperature in order to have the shelf life that they do. And whenever I was shopping for the baby food, as I mentioned earlier, it just astounded me that the baby food that I was buying was older than my baby. So, and I didn't like that idea.
Right.
So, and once you cook those vegetables to that high temperature, a lot of nutrients are lost. And they also they're adding things like ascorbic acid and other preservatives, and sometimes just even on some of the stage 3 baby foods that you'll find, there'll be butter and sugar added. So once I started label reading, I really thought that the frozen was the way to go, because I don't add anything. And the 8 of my 10 products, it's one pureed ingredient, one vegetable, and filtered water, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah, because you're right. I mean, you pick up those jars and you look and you see all these ingredients with words you don't understand.
Exactly.
And all that. So I'm sure it makes parents feel safer and more comfortable eating food, knowing where it came from.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. So, tell us about the variety of foods that you're making, the different names and types of foods that you're making.
Well, like I just mentioned, all 8 of the 10 that I make, it's just single ingredient. The stage 1s are peas and peas, which are, it's just peas and filtered water. There's Bunny's Banquet, which is, of course, carrots. So sweet potatoes. I also have Go Green Beans, and then just several others, Houdini zucchini, squish squash, and then I have several other stage 3, which kind of get in as the babies grow and their bellies become a little more mature. They can handle some spinach patch, which is spinach, bumper crop broccoli, and then my Baja Baby and Super Duper Greens. So those are all, and I just came up with fun names. I try to go with the green theme because as I said, a lot of the benefits of local is all environmental. So that's just something that I'm passionate about, and so I try to come up with fun names.
Great, and they are fun names for sure. Tell me, where can people learn more about your products? Where can they pick them up? And tell us your website.
Okay, all of my products can be purchased either at Ozark Natural Foods, which is in Fayetteville, or at Pinnacle Station, which is in Rogers, and they can also go to my website at bostonmountainbaby.com, and they can place orders there through me.
My last question to you is, why would you encourage parents out there to consider either A, making their own baby food or purchasing products like yours?
Well, like we've talked about, buying local is important just for environmental reasons, for nutritional reasons, and also I think it's important just to teach your children where their food comes from. Whether you have your own garden and they see it grow. I know my son was super excited about eating a green pepper last week because he helped grow it, he helped water it. He ate his first salad this summer because he grew the lettuce. So just knowing exactly where the food comes from, it doesn't come from jars and cellophane wrappers, from the store. And also at the farmer's market, it's the same way. If they go to the farmer's market, they meet the farmers that actually grew it, then they'll be more encouraged to eat their vegetables. And of course, we've talked about the benefits of the frozen, just for nutritional as well.
Right. Well, good luck to you, and thanks so much for being on the show, Angie.
Thank you very much.